It's 2019. What? I cannot believe a year has gone by so quickly. I started this podcast November 2017. So it's been a minute. It's been a little over a year. And now we are in a whole new year of 2019. I am so excited for just the year to unfold. I feel like this is going to be a good year. I feel like maybe I shouldn't say that. I don't want to jinx it. Anyway, we're kicking the year off. We're kicking the first episode of the year off with an ode to the aunties. We're talking about childless mothering. If anyone finds that offensive, we kind of get into the reasoning behind the title at the top of the interview. So just hang on a minute. But we're digging deep today. We're exploring what it is to be without children, but a mother figure. And we're particularly talking about how this works in Black communities, and this happens a lot in Black families. And we're talking about the place of the auntie in the Black family. And so this is going deep. In this episode, I'm talking to two aunties. One is Judie Powell, who is a colleague and a friend, and the other is my sister, Maria, who you've heard before from the Finding My Own Wakanda episode. So some woke mommy chatter announcements before we get into the show. The goal for 2019 is to keep this podcast on the app. So if you're listening, please share on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram, on Tumblr, wherever you are socially. Please share the woke mommy chatter, webpage, podcasts, whatever, tweets, anything. But the key is just to please share. Please tell your friends. Please tell your mothers, tell your aunties. Tell someone about the show and just share it. If you're listening to an episode and you really like it, please take the time to just hit the like button, leave a review on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or Stitcher or SoundCloud, anything, wherever you're listening. Please leave a review and let other people know what you think about the show. And you can go to the Woke Mommy Chatter website, www.wokemommychatter.com, to support the podcast. So it's just me by my lonesome. I'm not working with anyone. It really is just me trying to get these shows out every week. And if you have noticed, they're not always coming out on every Tuesday. And partly that's because I just decided, I did our episode 2 this season was episode 2 was about Black women and mental health. And I just decided that I need to take a minute for myself when I need to take a minute. And if that means that the podcast is going to be a little bit late, that's what I've been doing. So that's kind of why you might be getting your podcasts on a Friday or Saturday instead of a Tuesday. So I apologize. But for me right now, in the headspace I'm in right now, that's kind of just what I need to happen. I just need to kind of go with the flow. But your support means that I may be able to get an editor, so I don't have to be up at midnight doing edits after the kids have gone to sleep in order to get the podcast out. So I've got big plans for Woke Mommy Chatter, and I am hoping and looking to you guys for your support as well. So thanks. So now we're on to the aunties. Thank you guys so much for coming on the podcast to talk about being an auntie, whatever you want to say. So Judy had a really great title for this, which was, what was it?
Childless mothering.
Childless mothering.
Yeah.
Which I really liked. And I feel like Maria was slightly offended by.
I don't know if I would say offended, but I think it depends on, I guess, the person's choice, right? If they're childless by choice, then it's not offensive.
Well, it's not my choice I'm childless. It's other men's choice. I'm child.
Yeah, that's
just
fair.
So it's a choice. It's just not my choice. Yeah.
But
Okay. So, but for, I don't even know where to go after that. So, and I don't think that that's not the spirit in which like this discussion is taking place, right?
Not at all.
No,
Like,
100%.
Yeah.
100% not. But and I agree. But what I was saying
It's a
is
little
just, I think,
sensitive.
it's sensitive, yes, because I think that some people, or some listeners may be childless not by choice. So it may come across as slightly offensive. Do you know what I mean?
Okay. All right. Well, there.
Just putting that
Everyone
out there.
has been duly warned, duly noted. But the whole idea, though, the general idea about why I wanted to talk about this is because I know, like, so in the Black community, there's a lot of, I would say, mothering from others who are not mothers, right? And some of it is welcomed, and oftentimes it's not, but it happens anyway. So I think the idea of reliance on aunties in particular and what that means for the Black community is so powerful. And I see it in my own family. And I know, like, Judie and I were talking, and it things that you were telling me kind of mimicked and mirrored my life. And I thought that's really interesting, and we should have a discussion. And here we are. So Judie, you're a social worker?
Yes.
And you are auntie to how many?
So I have a 17-year-old nephew, an 11-year-old godson, his already 9-year-old sister. She's 9 going on 29. So she's a lot to encompass and try to bring back down to her age group. And then my 4-year-old nephew. I also have a goddaughter, but I haven't been as involved with her. And then I have a new godson who is almost 8 months old. Yeah.
So Maria.
Yeah.
Tell us about you and how many little people are in your life.
Okay, my name is Maria. I'm Carrie's sister. In my life, let's see, I have 2 little people, Carrie's children, my niece and nephew, who I adore. I feel as though I'm almost hyper involved in their life. Part of it, I think, is because I spent a lot of time away when they were quite young. So I'm really keen on like rebuilding and reestablishing that relationship.
So one of the things I wanted to touch on was this idea within Black culture. And I say Black culture because I don't think it matters if you are African American or Caribbean or even continental Africa. I remember my husband's sister, the first time she came to visit, my son was he must have been just about a year. He was still little. And so she came and everything, and it was all good. And then before she was leaving, we were just talking, and she's like, she's like, you guys, I could take him back with me, because she was coming from the UK. And she's like, I could take him back with me, and he could live with me, and so you guys could work. And I was so offended, and like to the point where I didn't want to talk to her for like a long time, because I was just like, this woman wants to take my child. But it's only, I don't know, maybe in the last couple of years that I've realized that that's not what it was. Like, it's a cultural thing where it's common for kids to go and live with their auntie or go and live with their grandparents so that their parents can go off and work and make money and send back to provide for them. Like, that stuff is common so they're Nigerian, so it's common in Nigeria, it's common in other parts of Africa, it's common in the Caribbean, and it happens in African American and Black Canadian homes as well. And I think like, if there are like white allies listening, it's probably really foreign to them, because I feel like white people, there's a lot more distance within their families, and I might be wrong, but that's kind of the impression I get. Whereas in our families, like, we're all up in each other's business, and just, there's no, at least in my family, there's no there, like, what's the one? There's no distance. There's no distance.
There's no distance. There's no barrier. There's no boundary. There's no limitation.
There's no boundaries. Thank you. That's what I was looking for.
Right. Like, someone's going to bathe you. Someone's going to feed you. Someone's going to put you to bed. If more than one person knows your bedtime routine, that's literally how it goes.
Yeah.
Like, of course I know how to put the child to bed. Like, let's go. So, like, with my godson, when he was little, I'd tell his mom, I'm like, okay, you take care of the kitchen, or like put him to bed, because she had to go do a research project or she needed to be at the library. And so it would be me and my godson.
Yeah.
And it was not common. It was not uncommon for me to be doing that 2 or 3 times a week, depending on her school schedule.
Yeah. And I would say, I think that that's pretty common in a lot of Black homes. And I guess, so, I mean, and I think about it in popular culture too. Like I think about, like being Mary Jane. Have you guys ever watched that? Like she's like an auntie
Yes.
that's like involved, right? And then the other one that I always think of when I think of like aunties is in Black Panther, where where Killmonger is in Wakanda for the first time, and they're all sitting on their thrones, and they just discover that he's like the cousin, and then he looks up and he's like, "Hi, Auntie," and I just thought like that, just those 2 words, just for any Black person, it's like, yeah, like you just know, like that "Hi, Auntie" just means so much. Like there's just so much.
Oh yeah.
It's like, you know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
And so I think it's just such a special place that even uncles don't like. That doesn't even uncle what? It's Auntie. And I think even in our own family. So in our family, we have my grandmother's sister. I don't even know her name. We just call her Auntie. Like I cannot tell you
That's a
her
really
name.
Great point.
We just call her Auntie.
Either.
Auntie. Her name is Auntie.
That's all you need.
Yeah. And it's funny because my kids do that with Maria. They don't call you Auntie Maria. They're just like Auntie. So,
but is Maria the only aunt they have in this country?
Yes, she is the only aunt they have in this country.
Why.
Yeah,
that's why.
Yeah,
because giving the name, what I've seen is giving the name is because you have more than one.
Right.
So like for my godson, he has to use my first name because he also has his actual aunt, so his father's sister. So they differentiate by calling us names. Sometimes they confuse us. And because the kids call me aunt, the little girl will ask me, she's like, "Are you daddy's sister?" I said, "No, I'm not daddy's sister. I'm daddy's cousin."
Yeah.
And she gets confused because she's like, I don't understand, because why am I like, she's like, "Then why are you Auntie Judie if you're daddy's cousin?" I said, "Because I'm Auntie Judie."
Yes.
Like, that's just what it is.
So yeah, and that happens too a lot, right? Like you're not blood related, but you're auntie. And I know for us growing up, we had those like aunties too, where for a little while I was confused, like, are they related? How are they related to us? But they're not. They're just Auntie so-and-so because they're your parents' friends or whatever. And so, and my kids have that too. Like they have their non-related aunties who I guess for them it's like they were also confused because their non-related aunties were like a completely different race. So they were just like, I don't get it. But so we talked that through and they get it now. But yeah, so there's that also like that whole idea of it's like you collect aunties too, because you just you're good friends with someone and they're involved in your life and your kid's life. That's Auntie so-and-so. And that's how you don't call them by their first name only. You know, it's Auntie whoever. You know, you don't call adults by their first name. You just don't.
No. So yeah. And I have tons of those too. I have my godfather, his wife, the wife's brother and his wife, and they're all auntie and uncle, and that's what it is. And I just always thought, well, my dad doesn't have family here, so I know these close friends to him are like family. That's what it was. There was more of that communal feeling with everybody, I find, and that more of that familial, especially because they were the first to come over to Canada. Whoever they knew that made it through, because the immigration process isn't for everybody.
Let's just say that again. The immigration process isn't for everybody. Yeah.
It's not for everybody.
Yeah. It was not designed for everybody.
Right. Whoever did make it through, you tried to keep a close connection and kind of build family then here. So even if you weren't blood, you were, I'll say, land family, right? You weren't blood family, but you came from the same country.
Yeah.
You've made it here. You've started out. You've been able to hold some of the same values and buy your home, work your full-time job, have your children, and build a life for your children here. So that then makes you family here.
Yeah.
Right. And then those women, like I remember when my mother I don't remember, I've been told the story that when my mother was in the hospital having my younger sister back in the early 80s, My aunt came to check on me and my dad because it's my dad at home with a 3-year-old child. And she could hear me screaming down the hall because my dad was trying to comb my hair and it was not going very well. So what did she do? She did my hair, right? And that's what we did. Nowadays, Kiri, if you dropped off your daughter, I don't know what I would do with her head top, and I'm sorry, but that's just we don't have that same we don't have those same skills.
We didn't pick up the
anymore.
skills. You have to teach yourself, right?
No.
I had to
Yes.
teach myself. People don't understand. This is why I get so angry when I hear, particularly white moms of black children, and I won't say biracial, I'll just say black, because that's how they're perceived,
black,
right?
When
they're
the
black.
Police show up,
they're black.
When the police show up,
Yes.
That's a black child.
You're right. So anyway, and I hate that biracial thing, which is a whole other topic, but it's because it's used to differentiate, to say we're not, it's like this, and I understand they have a white parent and a black parent, but it's about the experience. And I think using biracial, it's designed to elevate people or put them in another category. And I just find that a bit disturbing. But anyway, what was I saying? Oh, that's why I get so upset, particularly with white moms of black kids who will make comments about their hair, or, oh, I struggle to do their hair. You know, I had to learn. I am black. I had to learn how to do my back. I didn't know how to cornrow. I didn't know how to take care of natural hair. I had to learn all of that. And I'm still learning. Mm-hmm. And it's a process, but I invest and I enjoy it because I recognize the history and the beauty and all the stuff. Like, I love that I can pass that down to her. And I love that my daughter knows, you know, how to wash her own hair, and that she loves the curl. Like, I just love all that. Anyway, it's a whole other topic,
but you know what? No, in relation still too. So I go to a specific hair salon to get my hair done. It's a unisex salon. And I have been in there on a Saturday where I will see, and I guess because I'm in social work, I pick up on these things. It's Dad's Access Weekend with this half black, half white little girl, who he then leaves at the salon to have her hair done and then comes back to pick her up. So then who's watching your child? The girls in the salon are watching your child.
Yeah.
Some of them may be mothers, some of them may not be mothers, but the girls in the salon are watching your child. You know, you can leave your child there and she'll be fine. So when you talk about mothering and you talk about the idea of community, here you are, you've just entrusted, you might not even know the girl's name who's doing your child's hair, but you know, you can come back in 3 hours or 2 hours and your child's fine.
Yeah.
And her hair's done.
Absolutely.
So it's still a sense of, although you didn't go with a black woman, you know, your quote unquote sisters have your back and will keep your child fine while you're gone to go and do something else on your access weekend.
Yeah.
But it still resonates with the whole idea of the communal mothering type of thing.
Yeah. And actually that makes me think about all the times where I've been in a social place. I'm thinking about we used to go to this black church in Toronto in particular. And I would remember, and actually as a young mother, as a first time mom, I would get upset. But if my son was fussy or anything, there'd be women who would just older women who would come and take him from me. And then they wouldn't give him back. Mm-hmm. They would just be taking the child and dealing, because they could do it better. Right. Or I remember being on a bus one time. We wanted to go. So we had this big idea about taking these kids to a baseball game. They were little. My daughter was not even 2 and my son must have been about maybe 4 and a half, 5 at the time. And so we're on this bus. It was like a Greyhound kind of bus, right? And it was packed. It was packed. They had people standing on the bus. It was so crowded and hot.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And it was the drive was an hour. And my daughter, who she would not stop crying. And when I say she wouldn't stop crying, it's not normal kid crying. She's not a normal kid crying. She is elevated, and then it goes to another octave, wailing, miserable, crying. My husband couldn't soothe her. I couldn't soothe her. This black woman, I don't even know where she came from, but she made her way from the front of this crowded bus, squeezed her way through all these people to get to us near the back she didn't even ask or talk to me. She just came from the crowd and picked this child up thinking, like trying to get her to quiet down, right? Which didn't work. And I had to
Did
take it
she?
back.
Oh, okay.
And then I burst into tears because it was like just the most overwhelming thing. But I always remember that because I think like no white person would ever do that. Like, and you would never
Ever.
accept it,
Ever.
right? Like for me, I was just like, well, but of course there's a black woman who's here and going to take my child. Of course, because it's kind of like just what you do. I don't know. So I find that interesting. But I guess my question is like, what's the cost? So we know, for example, like for black women, I know the data in the States is that black women have the highest rate of like singledom. Is that a word? And so
It's going to be today.
right? So we know that. And I guess my question is, so you dedicate all this time to your nieces and your aunt, to your nieces and nephews and all little people in your lives. But what at what cost does that come to you?
That's a really great question.
Just go deep.
That I do.
Question.
It's very deep. I think that's a fantastic question, and it's one that I think about a lot because I know that, to your point, it really does take a village to raise children, and the need for support is very real, especially when you have young families. So it's completely understandable to rely and to lean on your sister for support. But I do think about that a lot when I'm rescheduling my own time or postponing my own, projects or appointments and so on and so forth.
Social stuff.
Exactly. Social things to make time for these little people in my life and to support you, Carrie. I do think about that a lot. I think though that like it's a balance. It's definitely a balance. B, I think that it is important to also remember self-care the same way it's important for a mother. Like the same way I'm kind of supporting you in kind of helping out and pulling up the slack. I think I also have to do that with myself, and I think there are times when I do need to step back and say like, okay, I'm being too involved. I'm not taking time for myself. I'm not focused on like the social aspect of my life, and I need to reclaim that, and I need to not be as, or we need to be less codependent, so that I can take that time and kind of develop myself and focus on myself so that I can kind of give it back in a more kind of whole and authentic way.
I feel tired.
Yeah. Like
for me, it's being tired because it's like, I don't know Maria's situation, but Maria, I have my full-time job with your sister. I have a part-time job. I have a casual job. And that casual job, when I'm working it, involves me traveling to do it. And then I've just picked up training, which will then start somewhere in the new year as well. And then somewhere in there, I'm supposed to have the energy and desire to want to date in this climax of social life. And it's so when are you going to get married and when are you going to have, when are you going to have a child type of thing. And that's calmed down more so now that my sister has a child. So my mother has her grandchild to fuss and carry on over with. But, I sometimes and then my parents are older, there's health issues, and neither one of my sisters are of the mindset to want it to, not that they don't care, because they do care, but they don't have the mindset. They're more business mindseted people versus I'm the social worker and I have more of an empathetic and compassionate mindset. So I'll do whatever's needed to help with my parents. So it's just like, I'm tired.
There's an expectation that you are going to be there to support, and it's fine to expect that, but not at the expense of self-care. So yeah, it's understanding that there needs to be a balance, and understanding that like ultimately this is an act of care to you and your family, because the need is great, and that's completely understood, and I enjoy it. I enjoy spending time with my niece and nephew. I enjoy like being a second mother to them.
Is there ever pushback? And I ask that because I know, so Maria and I, you and I, the last time was very recent, have had real arguments about where I feel like she's crossed a boundary in terms of how do I say it, like assessment of my children, or she'll tell me something or give me feedback or say something that I just don't think that's not welcome, because it's like, well, they're my kids, not yours. You know what I mean? So
that's not welcome.
Do you ever get that level of pushback?
In the Black community, there are no boundaries. We're going to share. We're going to tell you what we think, and it's not in malice, and it's not from a place of like any negativity. It's always from a place of love and care and concern. So I feel like, of course, there will be times where what people share feels unwelcome, but I still think that it's important for certain things to be said. Because I don't know, I feel like that should be valued. Like parents will always see certain situations through a specific lens, and it's important to have other opinions from people that really care for your children, to weigh in, right? Like you come to me looking for opinions quite frequently, so I feel like you can't pick and choose when I'm allowed to share them. That's just how I feel. What do you think, Judie?
No, I agree with your sister in that. When my nephew was born, like I'm a social worker, my career has been built on making sure children are safe, well cared for, mm-hmm. and they're getting the best out of life, because no child ever asked to be here. They're here because of the decision of two other people. And so when my nephew was first born, he was 6 weeks premature, and at that time I'd been in my job for 11 years. And I had said to the doctor, I'm asking the doctor all these questions for things that I know should be going on for a baby. And my sister says to me separately, don't ask the doctor any questions because it's overwhelming to me. And I just said, oh, okay, that's interesting. Because this is like, you don't know these things and I do. So I just said, okay, fine, no problem. So I find with my sister, she picks and chooses when she wants the full package. Mm-hmm. Like it's like she's trying to build her own car, and she picks and chooses what she wants out of whatever package till she gets what she likes that satisfies her needs. Exactly. But it's bigger than what her needs are as the mother, because it has to do with your child. So anything I'm saying to her, it's not to fulfill her or satisfy her as a mother. Like you're a grown person. Like it's to help with the development or the care or the nourishment of this little boy who not only is he a Black child, he's a Black male child with disabilities. So he doesn't even know there's a starting gate. You see what I'm saying? And so, but I can appreciate from any mother's standpoint, it's just like they're mine, and you don't even. And I this is where I feel like it's tricky, because it's just like I almost wonder in a mother's mind, is it that they're mine, you don't have any, so who are you to say anything?
I think that's exactly what it is, because that's definitely been told to me.
And
but it's like, hey, if you trust me with your
and that's
yes,
it
has been. Of course, it's hurtful.
That's hurtful, because just because a child has not left my body does not mean whatever may come out of my mouth doesn't have any value.
Exactly.
Right, and that's where it can be hard to do the childless mothering, because on one hand because it's more than just babysitting and taking care of.
Yeah, for sure. I think, I don't know, actually, Carrie, I'm curious to hear
I'm feeling
from
really emotional. I don't think that so speaking for myself as a mom, I don't think it comes from a place of, well, you've never had kids, so who are you to tell me anything? It's more of a place of, like, with great respect. Yeah, well, sort of like there's with great respect and great love and great
Mother knows best.
appreciation for everything you do. These are still my children, right? Like, not yours. So the decisions that impact their lives, the big decisions,
yeah, no one's
like
saying that,
I
though.
still know them best, and it's hard, especially if you're a working mom, when someone else, regardless of who it is, whether it's auntie or a daycare or like whoever, comes to tell you something about your child. It's hard because it's like, well, no, I know them best. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think
What's your favorite part about being an auntie, Judy?
Seeing him smile when I come over, or like the moment he hears my voice, he starts looking for me. I want the looks, I want the tickles, I want the playtime. Like, that's the stuff I truly, truly enjoy. Like, I enjoy doing those motherly pieces. It's just life hasn't worked out that I get to do it with someone who came out of my body.
What about you, Maria?
I don't know. I would say, very similar. You know that I love spending time with your kids. I think they're so
really
amusing. They're at a really
okay.
sweet age now, 8 and 5. Well, yeah. Anyway, 8 and 5, and they're at that age where you can have conversations with them like you're speaking to little people, but they're still sweet enough to want to hang out with you, which is nice. It's interesting to see how they it's interesting to kind of watch them from a development standpoint and see like how they're kind of shifting and interacting with each other, engaging with themselves and engaging with their environment.
Do you think when you have kids, if you have kids, that someone will be the type of auntie to them that you've been to Maria, to my kids, Judie, to your sister's kid?
By someone, do you mean you? Because I expect that everything that I've given of myself to your family and to your family's needs and to your children's needs, that I will reap those benefits in return when your kids get older, from both your kids and from you. FYI.
All right. I've been told.
That is the expectation, since you have so many expectations as well.
For me, no, I don't think that'll happen. For one, there's a physical distance between me and both of my sisters. And especially, let's just say within the next 3 years, I end up becoming a mother. By then, my one nephew, he'll be 20 years old. My sister's done.
I would be willing to bet that your sister will be more involved than you think, because I think having a baby just brings people together, and you develop bonds and relationships the same way you guys did. So you want to be there and you make those efforts. But I do think there are a whole host of factors like distance, and then the fact that you have your own family to deal with, which plays on your time, which is why childless mothers are so valuable, right? Because it's like, well, I think, Judy, you really articulated how you don't have time, but the perception is that there is time. I just want to say, I think I am in awe of both of you, Judy, you in particular. And I think that I don't think either of you understand the value that you have for a family, right? Like it's just, there are no words to express how valuable and important you are, right? To the fabric of family and helping, at least my family, and I know I think it's pretty obvious your sister's family too, Judy, just survive, right? And live.
If you enjoy listening to the show, be sure to subscribe to this podcast so you get automatic updates of new episodes every Tuesday. Also, leave a review and let other people know what you think of the show. Don't forget to follow Woke Mommy Chatter at Woke Mommy on Twitter, on Instagram, and follow along on Facebook at Woke Mommy Chatter. Be sure to visit the Woke Mommy Chatter website at www.wokemommychatter.com to help support the production of the podcast.
Thanks for listening to Woke Mommy Chatter.